Before we start, I just want to go over some technology information. Donc, pour nos collègues qui préfèrent suivre en français, nous aurons une traduction simultanée à l'aide de Wordly pour permettre aux participants de visualiser les sous-titres dans la langue de leur choix. Vous pourrez aussi poser vos questions en français si vous le désirez. After the 1 hour session, there will be a 30-minute optional Q&A. At that time, you'll be able to ask your questions through the Zoom chat function, the Zoom Q&A, or verbally by raising your hand so that we can enable you to unmute yourself. So I'd now like to pass it over to Chief Jones to begin the session.
Thank you very much, Annabelle, for starting us off today. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to see you all back here again today. It's great to have you all here with us for the next Rapid Intervention Program, Rapid Response Program on Leadership Development Level 1, Lead Self, Module 5, focusing on mental health. As part of my welcome today, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the National Office of the CFC is on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe and Algonquin people. We acknowledge them as the keepers of the Ottawa Rivershed and their tributaries. We also recognize the hurts and harms of the past, as well as the strengths and resilience of the people, and believe working together can make a better difference. And at this point, I invite all of you to please share your own land acknowledgements in the chat function if you would like to do so. Today's session will focus on mental health, cover concepts such as leadership, resiliency, positive attitude, overcoming challenges, and aspects of self-leadership and more. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Larry Iverson. Some of you may have already be familiar with Dr. Iverson, as he was one of our instructors for the Rapid Response Program on human factors, and he's been at our conferences as well in the past. Dr. Iverson has personally counseled, coached, and trained over 1 million people, including professional athletes, fire service personnel, IMTs, local and national government agencies, and 4 universities. He is a developer of and the primary trainer of the ICS L480 Strategic Incident Management Team Leadership Program for an all hazards and wildfire teams. Since 2012, Dr. Iverson has taught over 15,000 military, fire, public, safety, and IMT members. And so without further ado, I'll now pass it over to Dr. Iverson to talk to us about mental health. Over to you.
So for those of you who don't know me, I've interacted a lot with the Canadian Fire Chiefs Association over the last probably 8 to 10 years. And I'm a clinical psychologist for those of you who don't know me. But I've spent a massive amount of time working with fire agencies over the last 30 plus years. And today, when I proposed this, I was thinking about some of those things that really make a difference for us in fire services. And so just without further ado, let's talk about the objectives for today. One of the things I want to talk about is how to increase longevity. Now, I don't think all of us want to live a long time if we don't have good health, right? But would it be nice to live longer, healthier, happier? Sure. So there's some research that's come out in the not too distant past that shows there are a number of things we can each do to make that happen. We're going to talk about what's called the law of requisite writing, which is actually the law of options. And it is important to having great mental health and take care of ourselves that we use those options around us. We'll talk about the 4 strategic abilities, which are things that each of us can do every single day of our work life, something we can do to really make a difference for ourselves and for our organization. We're going to also spend just a moment talking about emotional intelligence. Most of you have probably heard of this, but I want to go back to it and talk about why emotional intelligence works and what are some of the things that we do to sabotage our emotional intelligence. How do we get beyond that? I want to talk about being mentally healthy and having personal control over that and what's going on with myself. Also, we want to talk about 10 self-care tips that can make a difference physically and mentally. To begin, what are some of the things that we can do to increase longevity? It was about 7 or 8 months ago now, I was doing some research in what is called Uh, it eludes me. Risk dominance. Risk dominance. I was doing it specifically for some work with fire agencies that I've been doing around the US. And we were looking at because we all have a tendency to be risk inclined or risk adverse. And we need to go beyond that. We need to be able to, instead of running on autopilot, we need to be able to make decisions and choose to be neutral, risk inclined, or risk adverse instead of just automatically defaulting to one. Well, as I was doing this research on risk dominance, I read a study which just rather stunned me. I'd like to share it with you. So, academic medical centers, now there are research centers and there's universities, but an academic medical center is a university or a medical school or a hospital that's connected to a university. It's not just a hospital that does teaching, but it's university connected. So, New York Presbyterian Hospital, Massachusetts General Hospital, Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and McMaster University Medical Center together did a multi-year long study. Over a period of 10 years, this study was released in 2023. They analyzed more than 719,000 people between the ages of 80 and 100 years old. I don't recall ever hearing of a study that was that huge. I mean, that's amazing. 719,000 people. And they were trying to find out what were some of the things that was done that helped those people live to be 80 to 100 years old and have good health in the process. They found there were some very specific things. I figured it would be exercise, diet, sleep. Well, those are part of it. But the number one was sort of surprising to me. They reported an order of priority of things you should do to increase your longevity and stay healthy was number one, be positive and feel grateful. Number two was manage stress. Number three was exercise. Four was have a good diet. Fifth was sleep well. Six was interact with friends. Seven, don't smoke. And number eight was no excessive alcohol. Two of these, now I've been researching stress for years, and two of these really jumped out at me in a whole new way. One of them was the first one. And they said, these are order priority. These are the most important things. If you're only going to do one, do number one. If you're only going to do one and two. Be positive. And when I think of positive, it's like being happy, feeling good, having positivity. And that's true. But the way they defined this was something I hadn't really considered from this perspective. They said that being positive was that ultimately I had this deep, long held in my gut belief that no matter what happens, things are going to work out. Things are going to work out. Even in the most tough circumstances, trying times, there's a part of that person that believes ultimately it's going to be okay. It's going to be good. It's going to work out. Don't know how. Don't know exactly what I got to be doing, but somehow it's going to work out. They said that was number one of all the traits. If you're only going to do one of them, developing that belief system was part of it. It also said feeling gratitude or feeling grateful. It's interesting that there are different things that affect the neurology, your brain, in a number of different ways. The feeling of gratitude, thankful for what you have in your life, your world, your work, your relationships. Feeling grateful is a whole brain experience. When you feel grateful, it literally lights up the whole brain, which is pretty unique. There's not a lot of things that light up the whole brain. When you're feeling the experience of gratefulness, it lights up the entire brain. So this being positive, ultimately believing things are going to work out, and this feeling of gratefulness, they said was the number one most important thing you can do for your own mental health and physical health. The other that really stood out to me was no excessive alcohol. You know, we've all heard that it'd probably be better if we don't drink, right? Well, in this study, when they were looking at these 719,000 people, what they found is that 80% of them drank alcohol, but it wasn't excessive. They would have a drink or a couple drinks. some of them even every day, right? They said the drinking alcohol wasn't the problem. The excessive drinking alcohol was the problem. So, I mean, that does that doesn't give permission to go out and tie one on every day, but it's one of those things they found that it's okay if you do it, just don't overdo it. Along with managing stress, getting exercise, good diet, sleeping relatively well, etc. So, to me, mental health really starts with that premise of positivity, of believing that things are going to go okay. And again, you may not even know how, but you've got to have that. Winston Churchill made a statement that I really liked. He said, if you want to be an exceptional leader, the first person you must learn to lead is yourself. Absolutely. Your mental health is determined by nobody besides you. It's up to you to guide yourself where you want to go. And when I think about this, this really to me is kind of core to the whole thing is what am I doing to take care of me and lead me where I need to go? So with that in mind comes what I call the law of requisite variety. It's a mathematical principle. I learned this when I first started college in a math class, and our professor said this applies to every single day of your life. The law of requisite variety says the part of the system with the most options will control the system. Not might control the system, not could control the system, will control the system. Let's say you have two people interacting and they get in a disagreement. All this person can do is scream and yell. But this person can scream and yell. They can laugh it off. They can walk away. They can call their friend who's an expert. They can go online, look up research. They can go back to white papers or manuals and things that they've studied in the past. This person has one way to manage the conflict. This person has six or seven. Who do you think, all things being equal, will probably come out on top when they have a disagreement? The person with one way of handling it or the person with six or seven? Pretty obvious, right? So when I think about mental health, I think about that. It's like, what are the options I have for better taking care of me so that the world around me and the people I'm interacting with are getting my best, but I'm also doing those things that really handle me. The four strategic abilities. This came from Harvard University research on what it takes for individuals and organizations to thrive and succeed. It was a multi-year long study. It was government agencies as well as corporations. And what they found was that we all can do these four things from the day we start on the job until the day we retire. Now, the research was looking at what made people thrive, what helped them be better, do better in their positions, what made that happen. And they interviewed tens of thousands of people. And the interesting thing was there was a list of 100 plus things that people were doing that they said helped them thrive and help the organization be better. But these four, there was 82% of all the people who responded said these four things are the most important things you can do. To me, that's amazing, right? If you can find one thing 50% of the people can agree on, that's incredible. 82% of all the people said these four things are the most important things, and we can all do them every day. What are they? The first is what they called stepping up to win. Stepping up to win. What that means is going as far as you can go with what you got. To do that takes courage. Takes courage. Sometimes the best laid plans don't work out, right? I mean, you've been doing everything right, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work anymore. You have to sometimes do the best you can with what you got. Sort of a strange little example of this was it was last fall. I was doing a keynote speech at a conference in Los Angeles. There were about 2,500 people attending. It was for the county of Los Angeles, actually, which is gigantic. The county of Los Angeles, all by itself, employs over 100,000 people. Anyhow, there's about 2,500 attending this conference for the county. I was their opening keynote speaker. I was up on stage. It was going to be a 45-minute presentation. And about 10 minutes into my presentation, my microphone stopped working. What do you do? It's like, I look over the sound guy sitting off on the side of the stage with his board and stuff, and I look at him and go, what's going on? He goes, I don't know. So I knew, because I've had it happen before, I knew that if I didn't do something, I will lose my audience. People get up and walk off, go get coffee. So I've got to figure something out. So sitting beside him on the side of the stage was a big, the post-it pad flip charts. They're 2 by 3 foot. On the back of them is a heavy piece of cardstock. So I went over and I ripped all the pages off the front, and he and I took a piece of duct tape and we duct taped me a megaphone. Hey, can you hear me? Yeah, louder. Yeah, louder. Yeah. So for the next 3 or 4 minutes, while he was trying to figure out how to get the system working again, I was screaming through the megaphone. I'm sure I would have lost my voice by the time I was done after about 40 minutes of presenting that way. But about 3 minutes into that process of using my megaphone to keep going, he flipped this one switch, which somehow got knocked off, and it turned the PA system on. And as I'm screaming, and I've still got my mic here, right? And the mic was on, it was like a sonic boom in the room. I about half deafened everybody in the room, including me. Sometimes you got to do the best you can with what you got, right? Got to step up, got to make it happen. Collaboration. They said the collaboration is personal leadership, it is risk taking, it is team play, and it is accountability. Pardon me. Personal leadership means that though I may be part of a team and I'm listening to the team, I move me. I do what I need to do to get me going, to move me where I need to go, to do what I need to do. Personal leadership. Risk taking. I don't think I'd ever really thought about collaboration as risk taking before, but it is, right? If you're working with other people, you're taking a risk on they're going to do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it. And they're doing the same with you. If we know those people and we've dealt with them before, it's much easier. But if it's a first time, we really are taking a risk because what if that person doesn't follow through and do what they say? Team play means we choose to work together, and accountability means I step up, I own my job. The way they described this was that those organizations and people who were thriving did their job as if they owned that business. And this was both government and corporate, as if they owned the business. In other words, do you have a job? Absolutely. And no matter where you are within the organization, your fire system, that job is your business. That job is your business. No, I work for the city of Ottawa. No, I work for, uh-huh, I know. And inside of there, if you have a job, that job is your business. That is the level of accountability that Harvard said these people who were really thriving had for the work they were doing, and it didn't matter what it was. Yeah, I know you don't own the business and it's like blah, blah, but that's not the point. Do you do and have that level of accountability for what you're doing? That also is good mental health because it gives us a sense of pride. It gives us a sense of accomplishment. And when I have that level of accountability, it makes me feel good within. The third of the four strategic abilities is set as long-term partnering vision. Pardon me. They said this is focused on the principles of relationships, service, goals, influence, preparation, need, and perspective. Relationships. Is there any part of your life where relationships don't matter? No, right? So I need to know what the vision is that we're trying to achieve. And also, I've got to consider the relationships inside of that and how they're moving towards supporting that vision. Principle of service. Every job has a service component from the fire chief all the way down, right? It's a service component. We are assisting people, guiding people, helping people, moving people. It's a service process. Goals. We've got to be clear about what we're trying to do, where we're trying to go, what we want to achieve. Goals. We got to be clear about those things. Influence. Influence in its best is shared. Sometimes you may have the power and choose to give it to someone else to do a job. Sometimes they may and they share it with you. But we need to be influential in what we're doing so that we can accomplish those ends we're trying to. Principle preparation. You got to be ready. One thing I know about having worked with so many people in fire services is the preparation you all have is never ending, right? I mean, you never stop, which is great. It can be good for you. It can be good for the people you're serving, but preparation. Principle of need. Nothing happens without a need. If there is no need, there is no work, there is no job, there is no accomplishment. So part of the vision is making sure I'm clear about what the need is that I'm trying to fulfill. And the last of the long-term partnering vision pieces is the principle of perspective, meaning that I try and look at it not only from my own limited perspective, but from the perspective of the people around me. That I'm really trying to understand it from a bigger point of view, not just my own limited point of view, but from someone else's perspective. And the fourth of the four strategic abilities, they said, is we need to learn what's most important to the people we're dealing with in the productivity and service they receive from us and in the behavior and the relationships. In other words, we need to know what is the primary task they want done, productivity and service, and how they want to be treated in that process in our relationship. And the way that we may choose to treat someone may not really work for them. It may work really well for me, but may not work so well for them. So to have the greatest partnerships, I need to make certain that I really understand, number one, what we're trying to achieve, and two, how the people around me want to be held accountable, want to deal with things, want to work with me in the process. What kind of relationship do we need to have? And it varies depending upon what you're doing. Now, these four things, stepping up to win, collaboration, long-term partnering vision, and supporting partnership results. As Harvard said, each of us can do these every single day of our workday, every day. From the time you walk on the job until the day you retire, you can do every one of these every day. Who chooses you to do that? You do. It's like Winston Churchill said, you want to be an exceptional leader? First person you must learn to lead is yourself. So just kind of in the back of your mind, I would like you to kind of mentally take a little survey. When you think about these four things, which do you think that the people you work with, your crew, your team, which do you think they do the best at? Which ones they do the best at? Stepping up to win, giving everything they got all the time, collaboration, risk-taking, partnering, accountability, long-term partnering vision, principles of service and goals, supporting partnership results, both task and relationships. What do you think they do the best at? And if you had to pick one of them, just one, which would be the one that you think that your team, your people, your partners need the most work on? I mean, we could all improve on all of them, right? Could you be 1% better doing any of them? Of course, we all could. But if you had to pick one, say, okay, out of all these, I'm going to choose this one. Which one would that be for you within your system? It's worthwhile to think about that. And it's worthwhile to think about, what are we doing well and how can we improve and what can we improve on? So that when we're done today, it's more than just words, but you can take it back to your people. You can take it back to your organization and say, there's things that we can do to all thrive better, to help our organization thrive more. And it really makes everything more robust when you do that. Four strategic abilities. Every single one of us can do these every single day from the day we walk on the job until the day we retire. Now, to do this, we need to have what is called emotional intelligence. Most of you have heard about emotional intelligence, maybe even read the book Emotional Intelligence, or have an understanding of it on some level. So I'm going to give you a 30,000-foot view of emotional intelligence. The book Emotional Intelligence was published in 1986 by a guy named Daniel Goleman. It came out of research that was being done at a specific institute, right, that was generating questions out and sending them out all across North America, asking Are some people more successful? Why do some people tend to be happier? Why do some people seem to have better relationships overall, both professional and personal? How come their life seems to thrive more? How come? What made that happen? It was a multi-year long study with thousands of people. And within the first number of months, they said, we already have the answer. And they called it emotional intelligence. Now, since that time, there have been dozens and dozens of books on emotional intelligence written. Emotional intelligence in business, emotional intelligence in parenting, emotional intelligence in um, business, emotional intelligence in athletics. I mean, there's probably emotional intelligence in how to weave baskets. I don't know. But the point is, there's lots of books. I've read the first one multiple times, and I've skimmed probably four others, and they all basically say what the first one said, only they do it in a specific way. Here's how you apply emotional intelligence in athletics or in business or whatever. So there's really only five primary aspects to emotional intelligence. Five. Pretty straightforward, right? The first is being able to know and identify what's going on with one's self and your emotional state at any given moment in time. I'm a psychologist. When I was first reading this book and I was thinking about this, I thought, well, don't we all do that? After I thought about it for a while, I decided, no, I think a lot of times we don't pay attention. I'm so busy just doing my job or dealing with my family or whatever that I'm not paying attention to how I feel, or I'm not paying attention to the emotions that have arisen inside of me. And so I need to be able to identify what's going on with myself because a lot of times we don't pay attention. And for example, I'm going to talk about your internal dialogue here in a little bit. Most people only hear their self-talk 3 to 4% of the time. You know the voice inside of your head that talks to you all the time? Most of us only hear it 3 to 4% of the time. The rest of the time is just talking and talking and going and going and going, and you don't even notice it. I mean, right now, while I'm talking, your voice there is going, oh, that was interesting. Huh, wonder what he's going to say next. Oh, that's a good point. I better write that down. Most of you are probably not even conscious that's happening. You're just taking notes or listening or whatever. So we've got to be able to catch what's going on with ourselves. We've got to be able to identify our emotional state. And then secondly, we've got to be able to manage it. And the management of that state is normally what I'm telling myself about what's going on. It's normally catching what's going on inside of me, right? First, I got to catch it, then I got to manage it so that I can motivate myself to do what I need to do when I need to do it. The first three components of emotional intelligence have to do with one's self. The last two components of emotional intelligence have to do with your relationships. So if I'm doing a pretty good job catching my emotional state so that I can grab it, I can manage it, send it the direction I want it to go instead of where it just erupts into, I can then get myself to take action as needed. And if I'm doing a pretty good job at those, I will probably also be decent at recognizing what's happening emotionally with someone else when I'm dealing with them. If I'm not doing a pretty good job on one, two, and three, four is going to be hard because I don't pay attention. But if I'm doing a pretty good job on the beginning ones, then I'll be better at recognizing what's happening and I'll be better at appropriately managing my relationships. Keyword is appropriate. And managing relationships does not mean manipulating and controlling them. But if they'd only do what I told them to, yeah, wouldn't that be wonderful? You ever raised children? Ever had a pet? Did either of those always do what you wanted them to do? No. Yet, inside of that, can you be better at managing yourself in dealing with them, which helps deal with them better? Yes. So when I think about mental health, to some degree, it really comes back to this process of having emotional intelligence. And as what I was talking a moment ago about the four strategic abilities, stepping up to win, collaboration, long-term partnering vision, supporting partnership results. When I was talking about those, in the back of my mind, emotional intelligence will make it more likely that I can do those four strategic abilities and be successful when doing them. They come together. Now, got a question for you. How many physical brains do you think you have? Literally, how many brains? Most people say, well, I got one brain. Or people say, no, I got two. I have two hemispheres, two brains. Well, that's true so far as it goes. You actually have three brains. Three. Three. There's one that is called the brain stem. Spinal cord is a thing that's about the size. That was interesting. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden there was nothing there. Okay, let's go back. So the brain stem is called the reptilian brain. The brain stem is like the electrical switching system of the brain. It sits right on top of the spinal cord and it sends off signals to the brain itself. It sends signals from the brain stem out into like the lungs, the heart, your internal organs. It gives electrical signals to them that help them function better. It helps keep things moving and going. It helps the lymphatic system work the way it's supposed to. So the brain stem is a very small but very powerful electrical switching system that is actually a separate brain in and of itself. Without that, you damage the brain stem, you have problems because your electrical system doesn't work as well. The second brain is called the limbic cortex. It's also known as the caveman brain. So there's the brain stem. Sitting over the top of the brain stem is an area in the brain that's about as big as a half of a bagel, shaped like a C, sits right over the top of the brain stem. It's called the limbic cortex. It is your fight or flight center. In the limbic cortex resides the amygdala, the reticular activating system, and so on, that in many cases is a hormonal releasing system. When an emergency arises and you get a blast of cortisol, norepinephrine, and adrenaline, that comes out of the limbic cortex. It is your fight or flight center. It's your caveman brain. It can save your life. It can save your life. But you don't want it to be always present because if it is, it also can sabotage you because it's basically chemically driven. Okay. So we want to make sure that we use it, but not overuse it because it can be very hard on your body. The third brain is what most people think of as the brain. It's the neocortex, the two hemispheres of the brain. So it's the brain stem, the limbic cortex over that, with the two hemispheres of the brain sitting over the top of all that. The neocortex is your thinking brain. Emotional intelligence is a thinking process. It's learned. No one is born with emotional intelligence. It's a learned process. Some people learn it, and actually there's some people who never do learn to be emotionally intelligent. Truly. You probably have known some. Have you ever known somebody who, no matter what happens, they always blame it on somebody else? Well, it wasn't my fault. It was like, it's their problem. Are you part of it? Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're the ones who caused the problem. That is not what we would call an emotionally intelligent response. Know anybody like that? Even if they're 50, 60, 70 years old? Not exactly what you'd call highly developed emotional intelligence. So we need to be able to utilize our emotional intelligence for better mental health. I've got to pay attention to what's going on with me emotionally. How do I feel? Right? I got to be able to manage those emotions, whatever they are, positive or negative when they occur, so that I can better direct my brain and my actions where I want them to go, so that I will be better at recognizing what's happening with other people, so that I can also more properly interact and manage my relationships. It's crucial. Now, like I said, the limbic cortex is your caveman brain. It's your fight or flight center. Okay. When you go into an emergency, you need it to be there kind of in alert, and you need it to maybe give you just a little bit of adrenaline so you peak up just a little bit more. But sometimes the limbic cortex can get us in trouble. Have you ever been in a situation where you're having a heated discussion with someone and you said something, and as soon as it came out of your mouth, you went, I wish I didn't say that. Ever done that? That's often generated by the limbic cortex. It prompts us to act or do things in ways that may or may not be to our benefit. Again, it can save our life, but it can also cause us difficulty. So we need to use our neocortex, our thinking brain, to have emotional intelligence, which helps reel in that limbic cortex and the brainstem. Brainstem. Emotional intelligence is essential. And the more highly we refine it and develop, and again, it's learned. Emotional intelligence is learned or not. So what are we doing to do that? That can make a gigantic difference in your level of physical and mental health just by how you take care of this. If there's questions about it in a few minutes, we're going to do some Q&A. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But think about it. Emotional intelligence is essential. Now, the thinking brain basically is your self-talk. Your self-talk. See, you have four primary brain waves: beta, alpha, theta, and delta. Beta is your wide awake brainwave. Alpha, theta, and delta are your light relaxation to deepest levels of sleep brainwaves. Right now, you are probably 90 to 92% driven by beta, maybe 6 to 8% alpha, maybe a percent by theta, and no delta brainwave activity at this time because delta only happens at the deepest levels of sleep. When you go to sleep at night, in the deep sleep, you are probably 20 or 25% beta, 50% alpha, 25, 30% theta, 5 to 8% delta brainwave activity. Your self-talk is a beta brainwave. You ever heard of the chicken and the egg? That's kind of what this is. So which came first? Does the self-talk make the brainwave happen, or does the brainwave make the self-talk happen? I've been studying this for more than 30 years. There's not a good answer. They are one and the same thing. The beta brainwave and the self-talk are linked up together. They are. So to have good emotional intelligence, notice my emotions, manage them, motivate myself as needed, I need to use my self-talk. I need to use my thinking processes. I need to make sure that I'm paying attention to what my brain is telling me. So on one hand, when something happens around me, I see something, hear something, do something, I have an experience, I'm out on a call. When that's happening, my brain may automatically jump down to the B minus thinking. My self-talk, my beliefs, my mental images is upsetting, disturbing, which leads me to feel upset. I tell myself angry things, I get angry. Scary things, I feel afraid. Shameful things, I feel guilty. Sad things, I feel down or despondent. On the other hand, if I go up to B plus thinking, if I tell myself relaxing things, I calm down. I tell myself passionate, exciting things, I feel more motivated. I tell myself things that are kind of funny, I get some humor. Most of the time, we feel how we feel because of our thinking processes. What am I telling myself most of the time? Because it triggers that beta brainwave. Now, for good mental health, I need to manage this. I need to manage my thinking processes. The beta brainwave never stops, even when you sleep. It's still going on. An example, have you ever been worried about something? And you're thinking about it all through the day. and you go to bed and you're still thinking about it, and you fall asleep, and you wake up at night and you're still kind of thinking about it, and you go back to sleep and you kind of wake up and you're thinking about it. You wake up in the morning and you're still thinking about it. You ever had that experience? And the next morning you feel so tired. Why? Because that stress beta brainwave never stopped even while you sleep. See, stress is a brainwave. Stress is a brainwave. It's actually a beta brainwave. Alpha, theta, and delta brainwaves have nothing to do with stress. Only beta brainwaves have stress. This is a picture that was given to me by a good friend of mine. He was a psychiatrist. He was actually the chief of psychiatry for Children's Hospital in Seattle, Washington. Um, and this is the beta brainwave of a 17-year-old male who was angry and frustrated. Do you see any difference between that and this? See, brainwaves are like a sine wave. They just go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down. Now, the beta brainwave is a short brainwave that's really fast, 14 or more cycles per second. Bzzz. Alpha is a little taller and longer. Theta is taller and longer. Delta is taller and longer. Beta brainwave. But if you look at that, it's even though it's kind of a little, not everything's exactly the same, it's pretty smooth, right? Pretty smooth. Sine wave. Look at this one. Notice any difference? You still have the ups and downs, right? But it looks like an earthquake going off in your head. When you get stressed, when you get worried, when you're afraid, that's what happens to your brainwave, to your beta brainwave. There's times that can save your life, right? And there's times that brainwave can get you to take action and move when nothing else is going to. But good mental health means I do what I can so that if that's happening, I do everything in my power to smooth it back out, to quit focusing only on the upsetting stuff, to go back and do what I can to calm me down. Because that, if it goes on too long, causes all kinds of physical and emotional difficulties. Nothing wrong with getting angry, feeling sad, nothing wrong with that. But you don't want to live there. After you have gone through that and you've had that experience that led you to feel anxious, scared, whatever it was, somewhere along the line you need to go, okay, have I done everything I can to take care of this? Yes or no? Okay, if I haven't, what can I do? What can I try? Then you do something. But when you get to the point, you go, yeah, I've done everything in my power and still not working. Oh, well, I guess I better get on with my life. Guess I better get on with my life. And I'll keep it in mind. I'll hold it back there. And if I can do something, I will, but I can't just keep worrying about it. Worry is probably one of the most useless emotions around. That and guilt. I had a professor who did a week-long lecture on worry and guilt and why they're useless. I loved it. It was great. I wish I had a recording of it. I tend to agree with him. They can move you, they can help you, they can get you to take action sometimes, but eventually, somewhere along the line, you got to go, enough, enough. That's good mental health. That is taking care of yourself. Why? Because you can't always control everything in your life. Be nice if you could. I mean, if you ever find out how to do that, please email me, call me, contact me. I mean, I want to know. I've never figured it out. I'd like to know your secret. But we can all manage ourselves more effectively. We can have better emotional intelligence. We can use the four strategic abilities, right? We can have that belief that ultimately things are going to work out. I can develop and create that and instill it in myself. It's a change of attitude and focus. And again, that was the number one thing for those people 80 to 100 years old. Right? So we need to manage us. And when it comes to the territory, it's important. It's part of what we do to help ourselves. Now, with that in mind, I would like to put out 10 self-care tips that I have seen that work really well for the majority of people who I have done counseling and therapy and coaching with who applied these. These are not conjecture. These came out of research by many different organizations. I'm not the one who created them, but I can use them myself personally, and I can share them with you so that you can apply them in your own world. One of them is maintain that positive mindset and have gratitude in your life. Remember, the feeling of being grateful is a whole brain function, which is really good for you. When you light up your whole brain in this way, it does really good things for both your physiology and your brain itself. And having a positive mindset that I can take action, I can do something, I can be proactive, I can make things happen. And if you want to take it a step further, belief that ultimately things are going to work out and I may not know what or how. I remember this was 1982. I was working with a Olympic marathon runner from Ireland. Her name was Regina Joyce. And Regina had gotten an injury that may eliminate her from the Olympics. She kept doing what she could to train. She kept making sure her diet was good, that her nutrition was on track, that she was getting the sleep she needed. That positive mindset. She never healed quite enough to make it to the Olympics, but in 1984. But 2 years after that, she won the World Games championships. She won the gold in that, right? That positive mindset carried her through that she was not going to give up. She was not going to quit. She was not going to quit. And she didn't. Regina was amazing. Amazing. I one time made the mistake. I did a lot of running when I was younger. I don't run so much anymore. It hurts my knees. But I was running and I live in Seattle. And there's a lake in the middle of Seattle. It's called Green Lake. And it's about a mile and a half around Green Lake, maybe a little over a mile and a half. And I lived close to there. And so in the mornings, a lot of times I'd get up and I'd go run around Green Lake. And I happened to be down at Green Lake one day running, and there's Regina. She goes, "Oh, you're out running. Would you like to run with me?" I said, "Sure, that'd be great." I was I, I was working with her, helping her try to get ready for the Olympics, right? So she's out there running. And as we are running along, she is talking to me and chatting and laughing and joking and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sucking air for all I got, and I can barely breathe, right? And after about half a mile of this, she looks at me and goes, "This is not working for you, is it?" And I said, "No." And she laughed. No, she and I both laughed, actually. She said, "Okay, well, when you want some lessons on running, let me know. I'll see you. Bye." And she took off like a streak. But she had that positive mindset. She's not going to quit, and she didn't. Manage stress, be resilient. Stress is part of life. Now, there's good stress and bad stress. There's actually stress that's really good for you. You will live longer, be healthier, be happier with eustress, is what's called eustress, than distress. So we need to manage our stressors, whatever those are. Some of them come normally from work. Some of them come from our lifestyle. Some come from being involved with other people, having families. And when it comes up, we need to be resilient. I need to find ways to say, okay, I'm going to do the best I can. How can I come back from this? How can I make sure that I keep moving forward? I need to manage my stress. I need to move beyond it. Okay. We need to find a way. This is important. Have hobbies that help you forget work for a little bit. I'm not saying your work isn't important. I'm not saying to not think about it sometimes when you're off work. We all do. But we need to have things to do that help us, inspire us, relax us, that are not work related. I've got to have things in my life because there will come a day when you're probably not going to be going to work anymore. And if everything in your life that's important to you is at work, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You need to find things that fulfill you. I don't care whether it's athletic things or hobbies of various kinds, whether that is beading or knitting or speaking or, teaching children, or I don't care, hobbies of various kinds. Have something you do that's outside of work that brings you some fulfillment. You need to find that. And if you don't have it yet, go get it. Don't care what it is, go get it. Regular spend time with positive relationships outside of work. Hopefully, we have pretty decent relationships at work. Hopefully. They go up and down. People get upset. We get attitudes. We have disagreements. But I also need to make sure that I have people outside of work that I spend time with. Now, I imagine there's probably people you work with that when you retire and when they retire, you're still going to stay in touch. Why? Because you built such a great relationship. You're still going to have that. And you'll still see them and talk to them and you'll know them, man. Right? I mean, there's a guy who was in training for the County of Los Angeles Fire that I met back in probably 1995. And he took a couple classes from me down there. And then I had him co-teach a couple classes with me. And he retired a long time ago. We're still in touch today. And it's been more than 20 years since he retired. We're still in touch. I would hate to lose him. He's a good guy. His name's Corey Rose. Great guy. Okay. But we need to have relationships beyond that. We need to have relationships outside of work that are healthful for us and good for the other person too. Get exercise frequently. You don't have to be training for marathons. You don't have to necessarily go to the gym 7 days a week and try and look like Atlas or Hercules, but you do need exercise. And the older we get, the more we need to do some resistance training where I'm lifting some weights, doing things, not just cardio. Why? Because your muscles will atrophy as you get older. There was a research study that was done in a nursing home. And this physical therapist, just on their own, I have a niece who's a physical therapist, told me about this study, and it was done at a hospital she worked at in California. She said this physical therapist went into this nursing home, and there was a number of people in there who were they were very not very mobile. They were using canes or walkers or wheelchairs a lot. They were fairly sedentary, not doing well. And she went in, and every day, twice a day, she had them do 5 minutes of exercise. She took in 1 pound weights that you could strap on your ankles. And even if you're wheelchair bound, just lifting your leg, lift it up and down, or weights on your 1 pound weights on your arms every day, twice a day. She did it every single day, day after day after day. Increased weights, changed things, etc. My niece said that what the study showed was that at the end of 6 months, many people who were using canes and had walkers no longer needed them. There was something like 25% of the people who had been wheelchair bound were now able to walk with the use of a cane or a walker. 25% of the people. That's incredible, right? So we need to make sure that we're doing what we can now to keep us going. It's important. Have a transition process going from work to home. Fire services, law enforcement have fairly high divorce rates. Why? Well, there's lots of reasons, but one of them is I'm at work, I'm making decisions, I'm in command, I'm doing things, and I go home and I take that and that's how I treat the people at home. Doesn't work. You've been gone for a couple of days. We're just fine without you here. And you come home and start telling me how to run the business. It's like, we need to have a transition process. We need to make sure that we are tuned up, so to speak. I learned that lesson in a way that was really eye-opening to me. I have 4 children, and when my youngest child was maybe 2 years old, it's a girl, her name is Sydney. I had a heck of a day. I'd had a really busy day at work. I'd probably seen like 8 or 9 clients that day doing therapy. And I came home and my daughter runs up, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And I pick her up. She wants me to pick her up. I pick her up and I'm holding her. She looks at me and goes, Are you mad at me? said, no, I'm not mad at you. She said, you look like you're mad. I hadn't left the office behind. I was still kind of thinking about some of the things going on that day. That to me was like a slap in the face. To this day, when I end my day, I do a mental check. Okay, can I let go of what's going on? Can I quit thinking about this? I'm going to now go to my family and interact with my family. You have to have a transition process, whatever that is for you. Things that can help us through our day and give longevity to our life is meditation, mindfulness, yoga, breathing techniques, hypnosis. They've all been proven to help diminish the stress brainwave and enhance calmer mental functioning of the beta brainwave. These things actually are one of the few things that are proven to get rid of that stress brainwave. Every one of those, every one of them. We need to find our own way. The way you would use them, the way someone else would, probably are not the same. They may be similar, but they're not the same. So you need to find your own way to do that, whatever that happens to be. But you need to have these things that can make a gigantic difference for you. Don't overdo any chemicals. Any. Coffee, tea, sugar, water, alcohol, drugs, food. Don't overdo any chemicals. There was an athlete that I worked with years ago who used to carry around gallon jugs of water, was always guzzling water, right? I mean, I didn't find out till later. They were drinking like 2 to 3 gallons of water a day. It's like, one day they went to work out and all of a sudden they got dizzy. And it's like they couldn't figure out what's going on and they were befuddled. They could hardly talk. And their mind, they were confused. And the people around them thought they were having a stroke. That's what they thought it was. They immediately called 911, rushed them to the hospital, started doing blood work and other things. We're doing the procedure for a stroke patient, but it wasn't a stroke. That person had drank so much water that it washed all the electrolytes out of their body. They put them on IV fluids with electrolytes, and miracle upon miracle, within a matter of hours, whoop, they were back to full functioning again. Don't overdo any chemicals. You can do them, just don't overdo them. I don't care what they are. Get 7 hours of sleep a day, plus or minus. Research says that if we get a 6.5 to 7.5 hours of sleep a day, and it doesn't even have to all be at one time. I mean, for many of you, you may go to work and it gets interrupted in the middle of the night, right? You have to go out. But if you can get something to relax or get a little more rest during the day somewhere along the line, it helps. But on that average is about how much we need. Attend to how you fuel your body. What am I putting inside of myself? And again, like that study showed, that research study, it's like if you want to have a cocktail, you want to have a beer, okay, just don't overdo it. Don't overfuel your body with that. We've got to pay attention to what we're putting inside of ourselves because it can make such a difference for us. How are you fueling you? Because it can affect your mental state as well as your physiology. I like this quote. It's by Henry David Thoreau. He said, I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of a person to elevate their life by conscious endeavor. Everything that we just looked at, you can do. You can make it happen. You can be engaged in it. You can be part of it. And it can make a giant difference on your physical as well as your mental health, right? Why? Because it's you taking care of you. We can do things that can extend our longevity. We can look for options as to how we live, breathe, do what we do. The 4 strategic abilities, can you apply those every day? Without a doubt. Using emotional intelligence, not sabotaging our thinking processes with our internal dialogue, being mentally healthy, having self-control, using those self-care tips. Every one of us can do these on a regular basis. Now, if you don't review what we just talked about today, by tomorrow, you'll forget as much as 50% of it within the first 24 hours, even just overnight. If you don't review today, you don't review tomorrow, you lose another 24%. And if you don't review for a week, you'll retain only 1 to 3% or less of the details of what we talked about. So hopefully you were taking some notes. and you take the time to go back and review those notes. Even better, you take that information you gained and you share it with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, with the crew that works for you. You share it with the people around you because it will force you to think about it again. Take the time to go and redo it. Because again, can we do all of these things? Absolutely, on a daily basis. Will they make a difference? Proven to do so. Okay, that's the end of my presentation. So with that said, any questions? Anything I can clarify for you?
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. Just for those who have to hop off after the first hour, I just want to remind you that Module 6 will take place on May 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern this time. It will be on attribution theory with Deputy Chief Steve Debian with the High River Protective Services. So just want to say that before some of you hop off. For those of you who are staying with us for the optional Q&A, you can submit your questions in the Q&A portal, in the chat function, or by raising your hand so that I can unmute you. So please go ahead and submit any of your questions.
I'll drink my tea while you think about it.
Not a question, but we do have an anonymous comment that says, no questions, but every time I see Dr. Iverson, I have the tools to do better.
Well, that was nice of you to say something. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of you. Something I'm going to put in the chat myself. There's my email. If you don't have something at this point in time, but later you think about there's a question you would like to ask or something you would like to know more about, email me. I am more than happy to answer questions. And if there's something that I can do later, get a hold of me. I mean, I will take the time. You took the time to be here. I will take the time to further answer what you want to know about. So write that down somewhere.
I just got an anonymous question. It is, how do you know when your mental health is improving or declining?
Huh. It's your gut. Literally, it's your gut. How do you feel inside? Our mental health is kind of, I think about it like sort of like a barometer. How much peace of mind do I have in my life? How do I feel in my world? What do I feel normally on the inside? Do I find myself on a regular basis startled, tied in knots? Do I get upset? Do I have a short fuse? So to me, it's like a gut response. It's probably the best way I can say it. It's like, how do you feel internally? I mean, even when you go into situations that are tension creating, can I notice them? Can I then take a breath or two? Or what? Let me give you an example. In December, I was asked to be the opening keynote speaker for the Hawaiian Fire Chiefs annual conference. I've spoken at that, been their opening speaker multiple times. And I really like those people. Their culture in the fire services in Hawaii is incredible. I mean, it really is amazing. Probably one of the most rich that I've seen anywhere in the world. Okay. And I've worked with fire agencies in Europe and in the South Pacific and North America. And I mean, it's amazing. So anyhow, the topic that I was going to be talking about was something I really know a lot about. But the night before, I could feel my anxiety building. It's like, ooh, it's like, what is this? And I knew what it was. I do that sometimes. I did that a little bit before our presentation today. Next morning, I got up and I could feel that tension still there. So I literally stopped. I went for a walk, and instead of focusing on what's going on inside of me, I just focused on the beautiful place I was walking around, on the beach in Hawaii and I have a speech to do in an hour. And I just looked at the birds and the plants and the waves and just breathed. And I just said, okay, I'm fine. I could feel my guts kind of going, "Rrr," and I would quit that. Stop that. Breathe. You know what you're going to say. So stop this. You're fine. And over that hour period of time, it diminished and diminished and diminished until finally I got there and was like, yeah, well, maybe there was a little nervousness, which I always have before I start anything, but it was gone. But I was watching my internal, my insides, my guts, and they were telling me when I was on track and off track. And it's the same thing with mental health. It's the exact same thing. You pay attention to what's going on inside of you. Long answer to a simple question. Annabelle, you're muted.
My apologies.
There we go.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. I have another question here, and it is, what do you do if your strategies don't help?
Your strategies, meaning the ones you've used in the past that maybe even did work,
Hmm.
or ones that are coming up that you tried that just don't seem to help much.
Yes.
The law of reckless variety. The part of the system with the most options will control the system. Options are better than no options. It's a presupposition of psychology. So if what I'm doing isn't working, then try something different, right? If you normally are somebody who exercises and the exercise doesn't seem to be helping, then do some of your exercise, keep with it, keep after, don't stop, but try something else. Try taking up country line dancing, or start playing music, or do puzzles to use your brain, or spend time volunteering to help somebody else, or take up meditation. Or the point is, don't stop. Because sometimes things we do, we get so used to doing, we just kind of, well, yeah, okay, I can do that, and I can do that. And it's like, I understand that. But we also need to think about that maybe what I need to do, I'm going to turn the screen off, that maybe what I need to do is I need to find something different. And that something different can sometimes trigger me in a way that the other thing just didn't anymore. So try something new. Try something new.
Um, what if mental health has been on the back burner for the longest time, and now what used to be a molehill that feels like Mount Everest? What's the top item that you recommend one do to start working on the path for their mental health?
I wouldn't say there's one. I would say there's a couple. Okay. Options are better than no options. Law of reckless variety. Probably one of the number one things I would say to learn to do is learn to do some sort of a mindfulness technique or learn meditation. I've had so many people say, well, I can't meditate. I've tried and it doesn't work. It's like, no, you can do it. It works. You just have to find a way that works for you, right? So I would say that's one. Two, get some exercise. And if you're already exercising, fine. Then maybe change the exercise you're doing. Do something a little different, right? But those two are the things that I would say probably are top of my list of things that I would do to really start to grow better mental health. I mean, they've shown, for example, if you learn to meditate, 20 minutes of deep meditation, Massachusetts General Hospital is part of Harvard University. There's a professor at Harvard University named Henry Benson who created the Henry Benson Institute of Psychology at Harvard, part of Massachusetts General. He started teaching meditation as a medical process like in the early 1960s and has used it since. There have been hundreds of thousands of people who have worked with this guy and come to this guy and gone to work with him. And what he showed was 20 minutes of meditation, good meditation, is the equivalent of between an hour to an hour and a half of sleep. If you're feeling tired, taking a nap's fine. But if you learn to meditate, 20 minutes of meditation will get you much more than a half hour nap. So I usually say, go there, try that, try mindfulness, try meditation. Anybody can do it. I've taught meditation to 4 and 5 year olds. Yeah, but I have ADHD. I've taught it to people with ADHD. So I would say probably start with exercise, start with mindfulness or meditation. You're still muted.
My apologies, I'm not used to
That's all right.
Um, Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. I just got a question, one around the guilt around receiving mental health treatment and doing things for your own mental health
Sure.
that might feel selfish, perhaps setting boundaries and how one can handle that feeling so that it doesn't impact their own mental health in the long run.
For years and years, there was really a stigma on going to counseling or getting, therapy. For years, it was sort of like, oh, there's something wrong with you, and you couldn't talk about it. And it's like, ooh, boo bad. That's not the case anymore. There's a lot of people you say, well, I'm doing some counseling. We go, well, good for you, right? Which is really different than it used to be. Why? Because there's times when every one of us needs a hand. And that's really what I see it being. It's not a forever thing. It's a temporary thing. And so that stigma that comes with sometimes saying, wow, maybe there really is something wrong with me and I feel kind of bad about doing this. And, maybe I shouldn't be doing this and it takes time away from my family or it takes time away from my work. Or it's like, well, that all may be true, but if you are more mentally healthy and you feel better, everybody benefits, including you and your family and your work. And so the stigma about it isn't there as much anymore. I mean, there's still people who probably there are, but most of them I would say are probably someone who doesn't really understand the process or hasn't. Maybe it's too macho. I don't want to throw that in there, but it's something that we can now do to take care of ourselves. And you don't have to feel bad about it. And in some cases, I truly believe that when someone does that to take care of themselves, that they ought to be patted on the back, not made shamed. So, yeah, it's just part of self-care.
Thank you, Dr. Iverson. Let's see if we have any more questions. If there are any questions, please send them in the chat or in the Q&A, or if you want to chat with Dr. Iverson, you're more than welcome to raise your hand so I can unmute you. Here's one. What are some recommendations for someone with a psychiatric disorder who is trying to not let symptoms affect their work ethic and environment during times of stress?
Pardon me. Um, but that's a big question. Um, you talk about psychiatric disorders or things that are bothering you. Um, One of the few things I do therapy with anymore is panic and anxiety disorders, panic and anxiety attacks. They don't come out of nowhere. There's reasons why they occur. Part of the getting rid of it is figuring out what they are so you can overcome it, get rid of it. But when you mention a psychiatric disorder, to me, I think about I only have one person I work with who is still that I see who's schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic. Okay. But in my past, in my earlier career, I spent a lot of time working with people who were that. And some of the things that I had them do, I mean, it was standard medical protocol that if you were working with somebody who was schizophrenic, You do not ever try and use hypnosis with them. You do not try and use meditation with them. You don't do any of that stuff because you don't know what's going to happen inside of their head, and it could be terrible for them. That was what I was taught when I was in school, and it's baloney as far as I'm concerned. So I think every person I worked with who had that, I did some hypnosis sessions with them to help them calm themselves. And I taught them deep relaxation techniques to help them do that. And most of them, I got busy doing exercise programs. And along with that, they were still maybe seeing their psychiatrist and taking medication for it, but they were also working with me on the emotional or the mental component of it, not just physically trying to handle it by the drugs that they needed to help them stabilize it. I mean, to me, both of them are important. So, got to run. Thank you. Glad you were here. But with that, we can all do that. We can all find relaxation techniques that can help us. We can get some exercise. We can do those. So, no matter what the situation is, I think we need to do that. When I'm dealing with someone who has panic and anxiety disorders or agoraphobia and they can't stand to even leave their house, part of what we have to do is change the mindset. We have to find ways that they can calm themselves inside so that they can then begin stepping out just a little by little by little to go back into reintegrating into humanity and into the working world, whatever. So it's same kinds of stuff. Those things, getting some exercise, practicing mindfulness, meditation, hypnosis. I've used them everywhere. I've used them with tens of thousands of people. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions. I don't see anything else in my chat or the Q&A. Shall we just give it a couple more minutes and then are there any other thoughts, Dr. Iverson, that you want to share with the group?
I love that quote by Winston Churchill. You want to be an exceptional leader, the first person you must learn to lead is yourself. Mental health is all about how I take care of me, right? Do people behave badly? Do they treat you in ways you don't deserve to be treated? Do they respond in ways that push your buttons or they do things that make you just want to fly off? Yeah, we all do. And if you don't have that happen relatively regularly, it's because you live in a cave and you never see other human beings. Right? So we've got to manage us, right? Nobody can manage me except me. Nobody can manage you except you. And those simple things of emotional intelligence, catching what's going on with me. I said this earlier. Our self-talk is the primary generator of most of our emotions, primary generator. And most of the time, we only hear that self-talk 3 to 4% of the time, which seems crazy, but we just don't hear it. But it's always running in the background. I mean, while I'm here talking, your brain is talking to you about what I'm saying, or arguing with you about what I'm saying, or arguing with me in your brain about what I'm saying, but it's still going on. So I've got to get better at catching my thinking processes, which in many cases are promoting my emotional state. And I've got to find a way to do that because nobody can watch myself talk except me. So kind of thought to live by is go there, go there. Find a way to manage that. It will assist you with your own mental health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Iverson. I didn't see any questions come in yet, so
Okay.
I think we can assume that they're all answered through your wonderful presentation. As always, thank you so much for the excellent presentation. This was wonderful as always. For those who are still on the line, I hope to see you all at the May 15th session with Deputy Chief Steve Debian. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us today. It was excellent. And again, thank you so much, Dr. Iverson, for taking the time to join us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.